Man, I should really get to building this engine. But the way my stuff's moving on DraftKings, it's going to have to wait. Today's video is sponsored by DraftKings. With a long season of football ahead of us, jump in on the action at my partners DraftKings playing daily fantasy. New customers download the DraftKings app and use my promo code RICHRULES for a shot at their share of millions in prizes with your first $5 deposit. That's code RICHRULES only on DraftKings. To play, just draft your roster, and those players earn points based on their in-game performance. With that first deposit of $5, new customers can play for a share of millions in total prizes. Check out all that DraftKings has to offer via the app or website. So what are you waiting for? Download the DraftKings app right now and use my promo code RICHRULES. New customers use my promo code RICHRULES and play free for a shot at a share of millions in prizes with just a $5 deposit on the DraftKings app. That's promo code RICHRULES on the DraftKings app. Download it now. Remember, the crown is yours and not the crown Rick. Oh man, the Badillac, look at that unit. I gotta head inside to talk about this thing because it's windy out here, but she's blowing up again. So if you guys been following the Badillac or what it was in its previous life, the race unit, you'll remember that this thing has lived pretty rough life. So we're doing a little bit of an in-depth inspection on the Badillac's original engine, which was an aluminum 5.3 liter L33. And man, it is surprising that that thing survived as long as it did. If you guys remember, back in the Indy Cletus and cars, had some issues going on with it. We ended up, well, hurting it pretty bad. And I've already kind of done a preliminary teardown on this thing because some parts had to come off to go to certain places to get certain parts for the next engine that we're going to build for this thing. We'll all talk about that later. But this video is just kind of about giving you an in-depth inspection on how a 5.3 liter looks after 2 years of Cletus and Cars burnouts, random burnouts, 250 shot of nitrous on a stock bottom N53. So I've already pulled the heads off because I had to take those someplace to get looked at for, again, that future engine. Turns out we've got, well, a lot went wrong with this thing. And not surprising because with nitrous, I love nitrous as a power adder, but nitrous has to be done right. Otherwise, it can go bad very quickly, which is what happened here. For almost 2 years, it was going great. And then it went bad very quickly. Don't look at those things over there just yet. So this is this is our engine out of the Badillac, aluminum 5.3 L33. Was a good unit. So I already pulled the heads off because, like I said, I had to take those in to get checked out for some stuff. Turns out those are junk. But if you guys remember, Badillac was down on some compression. It was kind of sounding weird. It was making some intermittent noises, and you'll come to see why it was making those intermittent noises. Okay, number 1, not looking too bad. 3, pretty good. 5, ooh, we got some stuff there. 7 is super bad, and if you go over to cylinder number 8, it is very bad. So Ringland left the chat on that unit. So the rest of the cylinders on this this bank, pretty good, honestly. You look in there. But yeah, we had some major badness going on these back 2 cylinders. And when we put that last engine in the Badillac, that $100 4.8, when we had the intake manifold off, we actually found a piece of ring inside the intake manifold. So it went up through the heads into the intake and got stuck there. So pretty bad stuff overall. But we know the pistons are junk in this thing. I want to see the condition of the bottom end of this engine, because what this engine is going to turn into is going to be the next engine for the Crown Rick. So this is an aluminum block taking about 100 pounds away from the front end of the Crown Rick. Would be very beneficial. So this will turn into a rod and piston 5.3. What heads I'm going to use, I'm not sure yet. Probably like a 706 or 862. That's what's on there now. Works pretty well. And that's going to be kind of a long-term project, not something I'm going to be putting together right away. There are some parts out of this thing, like the cam, that I need for the Badillac's next engine, which we will be talking about here in the next upcoming couple videos. So today, I need to get this thing stripped down, take basically everything off of it, see what's good, see what's not good, and just see how one of these engines holds up to 7,400 RPMs. Doing a bunch of burnouts, a bunch of cowboy stuff. We did that for the OG race unit engine. Time to do it for this one. So we're going to go a little bit more in depth in this one. We're going to pull the rods and pistons out, take a look at the bearings, see what happened, see what's good, see what's bad, see what we can learn from it. So I'm going to get together on taking this thing apart right now. Before we get too far, here are the heads that came off of this unit. So you can see they're pretty well dinged up in the chamber there. Not the best looking thing, and for this application, these are basically unusable. You can go ahead and repair those heads, deck them, try and weld them up, get them all straightened out and stuff like that, remove those divots, but if they're not perfect, they're going to create hot spots, and in a forced induction or nitrous application, that's super bad. You could probably clean these up, and they'd be okay if you're running just an NA engine, but the cost to get them to where they would need to be for the Badillac's engine, not really worth it. Like I said, NA engine, probably be okay. But for what we're doing, I just ended up sourcing a new set of heads that I'll talk about later. Those are going to be super nice on the Badillac's new engine. But let's strip some of the accessories, or not accessories, the covers off of this thing, and see how she's looking in there. I'm excited to see how these bearings, timing chain, cam, hopefully the cam's good. I don't want to buy a new one. All that stuff held up. Lifters especially. Lifters are a big thing that give people problems. Hopefully these are good to go. I'm not going to reuse them, but I just want to see how they held up. So let's take a peek. Also, this Motion engine lift plate is pretty convenient for these things, so big fan of that. I got to order a new knock sensor valley cover for the new engine. Clean it up a bit, simplify it. I already looked in here, nothing too crazy in there, but we'll pop this timing chain cover off, see how stuff looks behind there. All right, bolts are out of the timing cover. Let's peel this unit out of here. Oh man, let's take a look. Teeth on the cam gear don't look bad. So we don't have any sort of damper or anything. This one block is drilled for one. Can maybe put one on. That chain is a little loose. Never had any issues with it though. The gear looks good. Everything in there held up pretty well, it looks like. So that's impressive. I don't know. I don't remember what it was stock. Sometimes when you don't have that damper in there, these things are a little loose, but nothing out of the ordinary. Glad none of those gears are chewed up. Those all look super solid. So I think next we'll flip this thing over, get the oil pan off, and then we can take the oil pump off and get all this stuff out of the way. I mean, we could pull the cam out right now if we wanted to, but it's just easier if you take the pan off. So we'll do that. Also, head gaskets. Before I take those off, everything looked really good there. No combustion creeping out of there or anything like that. Maybe we'll pull the lifters out while we're right here too. That's a good idea. Head gaskets, these are just GM units. Stock 5.3 head gaskets. Worked great. That's what's going to go in the new Badillac engine, as well as these same gaskets, but new. All right, the lifters are out and the verdict is in. These things looked extremely well. They basically all look the same. There's virtually no wear on the roller. None of them were collapsed. These things held up extremely well to the abuse. These are just your regular old LS7 style lifters. Nothing crazy there, and that's very surprising to me, but I'm very impressed. So happy to see that. We're going to go in a little bit deeper now, flip this over, and get this oil pan off so we can get some of the stuff out of the front of this thing. Oil pan is off, and as far as funny business right off the bat, not really seeing anything. So if we take a look inside the pickup tube here, I'll see if I can get some light. Looks pretty dang clean, honestly. And down by the pan in the sump, hard to see with the light. Maybe a little better. That's just some debris that fell in from from it being sent out. Overall, though, pretty clean. There might be some yuck right there. I think that might just be the gunk from taking it off, though. Overall, it's pretty clean. So far, guys, I'm pretty impressed with how this thing's looking. So next thing's going to be pull the pickup tube off of the oil pump, and then pull the oil pump off, cam out of this thing, see how that looks. I'm really concerned about the cam. I want that to be good because I do want to reuse that. One of the best sounding cams, one of the best sounding 5.3 cams, I should say. This thing just sounded good, performed well. Dr. Tune 'em all, man. Got to check him out if you need a camshaft for your 5.3. Doing anything burnout competitive, those guys will get you spec'd out. Check them out. All right, moment of truth here. Oil pump's off. Cam gear came off. Took the cam retainer plate off. Put the cam gear back on the cam. Make it easier to pull it out. And we're going to see how this cam looks. So, please look good, cam. Also curious to see how these cam bearings look. Everyone always freaks out about cam bearings. So, curious to see how these things have held up to this abuse over the years. This is a super good sight, guys. The cam looks extremely good. Yeah, cam bearings look decent. I can't really show you too deep in there. I mean, we can look at the first one maybe, but I'd still run it, honestly. But I'm happy about this. I didn't want to have to buy another cam. Cam costs as much as an engine. That's the worst. So take a look at the lobes. I'll show the cam bearings, but pretty much ready to pull rods and pistons out of this thing. We know a couple of them are going to be pretty rough, but interested to see how the rest look, and also the bearings. So let's take a look at the cam first, though. You can kind of see this thing's in great condition. Very nice. Very nice. The cam bearings, you know, you don't look at LS cam bearings. You don't worry about them. This thing had great oil pressure. This had 40 pounds oil pressure, maybe 35 hot. So she was a tight unit. Very happy with this thing. Pull this windage tray off and start pulling rods and pistons. Okay, that windage tray's off. I'm not super concerned with keeping these things in order because they're not going to be reused. So it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to knock all these out and we'll take a look. See how they come out, I guess. Condition of the inside of this engine is nothing short of incredible. So you can kind of see the journals for the rods. They're in fantastic shape. Essentially no wear, nothing's chewed up. Here's one of the rods. Bearings look mint. Incredible. Piston, on the other hand, not so mint. Basically all the rods looked like that. Nothing crazy to be seen on that end. Obviously we had those two pistons that were in pretty bad shape due to this thing going lean. Unfortunately, because this thing, judging by the condition inside, was living a very happy life. And it's pretty cool to see. Went through this thing 2 years ago, and I'm pretty happy with what I did to it. So good tuning from our friend Matt Sanford. He had this thing dialed in. Good parts from our friend Dr. Tune 'em all. Great performing setup here. So I'm going to leave the crank in it for now because I don't really have a good spot to set it. And I also need to get some punches for numbering the caps for the mains. But yeah, just super happy to see the inside of this thing in that condition. So it lived a good life. Unfortunate it had to go out the way that it did, but we've got some other stuff planned for it that's going to be pretty cool. So Badillac will be getting a good engine here pretty soon. So appreciate you guys supporting this matter. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully, you know, you guys have some respect for stock bottom end LS stuff. You saw this thing has taken a serious beating over the past 2 years, and it's in great condition overall. So very happy about that. These things are very impressive pieces of equipment. So appreciate you guys supporting this matter. Again, if you have the ability to, check out our Patreon. That greatly helps out the channel, contributes to making stuff like this come together because, well, stuff's cheap, but it's not free. So it's a big help. But we'll see you guys back here in a couple days. New engine is sitting right over there. I got to get to cleaning that thing up, and we'll walk you through a step-by-step how-to on how to build your own engine that'll, well, take this kind of abuse on the cheap. See you guys later.